What's up, guys? Ian here, coach of your Ladner Lanturn, bringing you guys our Week 7 Team Builder. This music is really aids. There we go. Bringing you guys our Week 7 Team Builder for aABL, taking on Redthedemonhog and the Ohio State Barboach. His team consists of Jirachi, Xurkitree, Kyurem, Rotom Heat, Z Moltres, Drapion, Z Guzzlord, Megaseptile, Z Gallade, Celebi, Breloom, and Gyarados. He has priority users in the Gallade with Shadow Sneak and Breloom with Mach Punch. Hazard Setters in the Jirachi with Rocks, Drapion with Toxic Spikes, and Celebi with Rocks. Removal options in the Rotom Heat with Defog, the Moltres with Defog, and that is it. 4 times weaknesses, the Moltres to Rock, Guzzlord to Fairy, Sceptile to Ice, Celebi to Bug, Breloom to Flying, and Gyarados to Electric. Few things about this team. There is a gigantic speed gap between Jirachi, Celebi, and Mega Sceptile, and then a bunch of stuff gapped up really tightly between basically 80 and 100. There's the majority of the team. It only doesn't encompass Breloom, Guzzlord, and Mega Sceptile. So there's just it's a huge pile of speed tiers in the middle, and not a lot on the outsides of that 20 range that you would normally see. In fact, my team actually hits a lot of the speed that would be outside of that range. Unfortunately, I'm not bringing Keldeo. I'm not sure why I'm not bringing Keldeo. Oh, I know why. He's got triple grass. So that's another thing then. He's got triple grass like I used to have triple grass. Unfortunately, I still have triple water, and triple grass beats triple water fairly freely. The problem for him is that Golisopod looks freaking amazing this game, so I'll touch on that in a little bit here. In terms of what I'm not expecting to come, I don't think Moltres, Drapion, or Gallade come. Moltres could come. I have a really hard time believing that Moltres is going to come against my team when it's so weak to rock. I'm also a little bit skeptical about Rotom Heat, in all honesty, but he needs some way to be able to break through Ferrothorn. He's been bringing physical Mega Sceptile over and over and over and over again. I'm certain it's going to have Drain Punch, and I'm certain it would try and 1v1 a Ferrothorn, but I'm not even going to bother bringing Ferrothorn, just because it's free setup fodder for mons like Xurkitree, and I don't want to get T-spiked on by the Drapion. Yeah, especially because Xatu is my removal in quotations this week. Jirachi's still a gigantic problem. Gallade is just such unmon. It's really bad, so I don't expect Gallade to come whatsoever. I'm not even bringing a Dark-type move. I'm bringing Knockoff on Diggersby, I think, but that's about it. Gyarados without Z is much less of a threat. If I'm being completely honest, it's really not a threat at all. Breloom I have very well covered. Celebi is pretty bad against my team, so I'm not necessarily expecting it. I'm really not entirely sure what the 6 are. I think that Jirachi, Xurkitree, Kyurem, and Mega Sceptile all come for sure. I'm not certain about a Guzzlord. Guzzlord would be a nice way to break through Slowking if he doesn't want to rely on Mega Sceptile. So I'm really not sure what the back end of his team will be, but I think Jirachi, Xurk, Kyurem, Mega Sceptile all come for sure, 100%. Worthy to note that there's no Fairy on this team, so this is another match where I could just go Mono Outrage Charizard X, like I did against... Who did I do this against? Week 2 or something? Week 3? Oh yeah, against Spanik. I was Mono Outrage against Spanik. That's because his Steel was Aggron, and I wasn't scared of his Steel at all. But this week, I am scared of Jirachi, so we've got fire coverage for that. Anyways, starting off here, my Zapdos. Running a physically defensive static Zapdos with Toxic, Roost, T-Bolt, and Heat Wave. I went with T-Bolt over Discharge just to get a little bit more damage against the Moltres. And it's not really going to matter. I could run either of them against something like a Gyarados. The Mega Sceptile might want to switch in Lightning Rod anyways. I'm going with Heat Wave over HP Ice just as a way to hit the Jirachi. And I've got Toxic for anything else that would want to be in the way. So Toxicking mons like Kyurem would be really useful if it switches in. Xurkitree would be really useful, Guzzlord, etc, etc. Anything but the Celebi probably, because Celebi is guaranteed to have natural cure. And Roost for my own longevity. This is a really good switch into mons like Breloom. If something's already asleep or something like that. It's a really good way to deal with Gyarados. It's a super solid way to deal with the Jirachi. If it's locked into Iron Head and whatnot, I can always get chance of static paras, which will just entirely cripple Jirachi if it's a Scarf variant, and I won't have to deal with it anymore. This is my main Gallade check if he does want to bring Gallade. This is a pseudo Mega Sceptile check if he's the physical variant that he keeps bringing. I don't have any coverage for it, but it's pretty frail, so Heat Wave plus Toxic stalling it will will definitely be useful there. Not super concerned about a Rotom Heat on this Pokemon in particular. My team in general is fairly weak to Rotom Heat, but I think the Charizard X can handle it pretty well, so I'm not super concerned about that. Next up is Gliscod. Just bringing up Banded Gliscod. Banded First Impression kind of claims a ton of these. It'll do a crapload to Xurkitree. I didn't calc it yet, but I know Xurkitree is really frail, so let me just bring up the calc here for Gliscod versus Xurkitree to give you guys a little bit more. Yeah, so if he's no bulk, Xurkitree actually do kill. It's doing 101 to 119 with Banded First Impression. So I should be fairly safe to just pick off the Xurkitree in some revenge killing fashion with this. If rocks are up, and he's max HP. If rocks are up and he's max HP, then it's a roll. So it's a 75% roll in my favor to kill. To kill with First Impression there. So always some way of revenge killing the Xurkitree, which is very helpful, as long as I don't let my Gliscod get put to sleep by Z Hypnosis or anything along those lines. I've got Leech Life there as well, because obviously he's got grass types that are weak to Leech Life, but Banded First Impression picks off so much of this team. I've got Banded Aqua Jet to pick off Rotom Heat and Moltres in particular, just because First Impression is going to do more to everything else, and then Leech Life is just to gain back some health if I need to. The way that Showdown works, the mechanic of Emergency Exit, is that you can continuously proc Emergency Exit as long as you're above the 50% range, and that's why I love Gliscod so much, because if you heal back enough and then you get popped back into Emergency Exit, then you're in a solid spot to be able to switch back out and then get First Impression from there. So spikes are just there to get a little bit of extra damage if I need to. I'm not entirely sure that I would ever click spikes, but most of this team is grounded, and so getting a spike up could be useful damage in revenge killing mons like Xurkitree or Mega Sceptile or something like that. Well, Mega Sceptile is just going to straight up die, but there you have it with the Xurkitree there, or the Gliscod, sorry. Nidoking is my rocker this week with Rock Slide for the Moltres and the Rotom Heat, Sludge Wave just for all of the grass types realistically, but it's going to hit everything except for the Drapion really well, and so I've got Earth Power there for Drapion, Jirachi, and Xurkitree. I'm not sure that I can count on a Jirachi switch-in, but he doesn't really have a ton of switch-ins to this Pokemon. I'm not entirely sold on the Moltres and the Rotom running max speed to outspeed me, so I might be able to get a fat Rock Slide off on them. Sludge Wave is a nice neutral play because I can't imagine the Jirachi is going to want to switch into this if I'm in against, say, Breloom, for example. I can't imagine a reason why the Jirachi would ever... Well, no, that's probably a bad idea. Against something like Drapion, for example, he's not going to switch in Jirachi, so Sludge Wave is more of a safe play, for example. Nidoking, it doesn't necessarily just claim one every single time it comes in, but it can do a really good amount of damage, and this team is really frail, so it's just really good at picking a lot of stuff off. And if I do happen to be faster than I do, rocks are really important for the Kyurem in particular. I don't have good switch-ins to Kyurem at all. In fact, I have actually 0 switch-ins to Kyurem on the team because I'm not bringing Slowking. Slowking would have been a really good switch-in to the Kyurem, but I'm opting out of bringing the Slowking. I might change my mind on that in a bit here. I might actually just swap the Xatu for Slowking and then just run no removal on the team whatsoever this week, but sort of see how I feel about it in a second here, just because I think Xatu is a better Breloom check than Slowking is, and that's the reason that I'm running the Xatu set that I am. So yeah, Diggersby is... Oh, I'm running enough speed on Nidoking for Xurkitree. There we go. Diggersby, Scarf Diggersby, Knockoff, Earthquake, Return, and U-Turn. Gets me a lot of good momentum. Moltres could be quite an issue. U-Turn just deals with all the grass types really effectively. Unfortunately, I'm not in a position where I can outspeed Mega Sceptile with my Scarf because it's so fast, but if he is speed creeping Persian, I'll outspeed that, which means it'll outspeed everything below Persian, essentially, which is most of the team. Return is fat damage against pretty much this entire team. Like, it's only Jirachi is his normal resist, so Scarf Return is pretty effective in the late game. And Earthquake is better if I don't click it in most scenarios. It's really only there for the Jirachi in most cases. Xatu, I'm bringing a Safety Goggle Xatu, so this is a nice Breloom check. It's a pseudo Gyarados check. It's a really solid Mega Sceptile check if he's physical. It's a really solid Gallade check if he's physical, or if he's bringing Gallade. It's okay at checking the Drapion. I have Dazzling Gleam on here for Guzzlord and Mega Sceptile. U-turn just for momentum, Toxics to get off against anything that would actually want to switch in to Xatu, bar Drapion, which I've got U-turn there for. I'm just a physically defensive Xatu. So again, I'm not entirely sure if I should maybe be bringing Slowking instead as a Kyurem check, because I have absolutely nothing to switch into Kyurem. I kind of just have to like switch into Gliscod and hope that it isn't Draco, I guess is the idea behind that. So I might want to switch this out for Slowking, but I'm a lot more scared of Breloom than I want to lead on to be, just because Breloom actually looks pretty solid against me. I have a decent fighting weakness on my team, and I'd rather have a better Breloom check than a better Kyurem check, if that makes sense. Because I could also bring a Kyurem check, but I'm opting out of it. So, I mean, I could drop like Diggersby or something for Slowking, and that might not be awful, because I've got a lot of offense on the rest of the team. And I don't need Diggersby. It was just nice as a Scarfer, but do I really need it? I don't think I do. I don't think I do. Alright, well, you know what? We're just going to do some live editing here for you. I'm going to just pull up Slowking real quick here. The movie. Generator. And we will pop on Scald Future Sight. I'm just going to make it AV. So that it can handle the Kyurem. I mean, I don't have to. I could make it physically defensive Calm Mind and it'd be alright. Well, Shadow Ball. And that might be all we need. That might be all we need. I would want all of these anyways. This is probably fine. Something at the Drapion, Earthquake would be alright at it, just because the Drapion doesn't get recovery. I could opt out of being AV and I could run status like T-Wave or something if I needed to as well. But I think instead I'm just going to run the Earthquake, just because it makes a little bit of sense here. Shadow Ball will be able to deal with the Jirachi, and it'll hit a bunch of other things that would want to switch in. Ooh, I don't have anything for Guzzlord. Doesn't get anything for Guzzlord, besides Signal Beam. Yeah, that's fine, I'll just switch out on Guzzlord. So, just run this spread. And we're fine. Perfect. So, Slowking, nice and solid, as you got a Trick Room aspect. He does have a Trick Room aspect. I'm just going to run 0. It doesn't matter. I'm slower than everything anyways, so I don't need the speed IVs. So Slowking's a nice pivot into the Kyurem, and that's really all there is to it, is that I can deal with the Kyurem reasonably effectively. So, I mean, Ice Beam might be nice, but I can just fire off Future Sights and Shadow Ball, be able to hit the Celebi. Or I could just run Flamethrower instead, and then it hits the grass types just fine. So, nice live edit. I love that. I love that. Last but not least is the Charizard. Dragon Dance, Dragon Claw, Flare Blitz, and Roost. So, again, Mono Dragon would have just torn through this. I didn't really want to lock myself into Outrage, despite him not having a Fairy, because I'd rather be able to switch up moves. Like, Flare Blitz isn't going to be as good against Moltres and Rotom. But you never know. Oh, excuse me. I'm speed tying Jirachi with this set, so once I get a Dragon Dance up, I'll speed tie Scarf Jirachi realistically, and I'll outspeed the entire team at that point, which would be pretty fantastic because that means that Charizard X can kind of just go in. This is definitely my win con for the week. I have no qualms about just winning with this Zard. As long as I can set up on something safely, then I can kind of just win. I've got Roost there as well, rather than running a coverage move like Earthquake. Lets me set up on something like a Drapion. If it wants to click Earthquake against me, then I can set up on that. Or it lets me set up against something like a Gyarados as well. In terms of what I'm not bringing, Ferrothorn, like I mentioned, it's threatened by the Breloom, threatened by the Rotom, threatened by the Moltres. I am bringing Slowking. I need to change that. I'm bringing Slowking over the Diggersby. Diancie. Diancie loses to Jirachi. That's the main thing. I don't really need a better Guzzlord check. Like, I don't think Guzzlord has a great matchup against me, so it's fairly irrelevant for the Diancie, and it's just, it loses to the Triple Grass. Alolan Persian is alright here as a decent way to just pivot on Jirachi. I don't have anything against Alolan Persian in this matchup. Abomasnow, also fairly decent against the Triple Grass, loses to the Fires. I'm against losing to the Fires. Keldeo, I explained earlier on, and Diggersby, obviously, you just saw on the team. I wanted it on the team, but I'd rather have Slowking now. As a more reliable Kyurem check. If I wanted to go a little bit more aggressive with this build, I could, but this is a key match in determining if I'm going to be able to clinch playoffs or not, so I want to take it as seriously as I possibly can. So that's going to be it for me, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys for the match.